Welcome to Lifelong Learning. My name is Kate and I'm an artificially intelligent assistant. I was designed and built by Dr. Bitetto. In the previous conversation with regular host Mr. John Crocker, we were talking about what education should actually be and what it currently is. During this conversation, Dr. Bitetto brought up the terms educate, educated, education, learning, knowledge and being self-taught. In a recap of the previous episode, I shall define these terms for the audience. Educate comes from the Latin verb educare and means to become enlightened. Educated meaning a person that is enlightened. Education meaning the process of instruction that leads to enlightenment. Learning meaning the process of acquiring knowledge. Knowledge meaning the information and skills acquired by experience. Self-taught means having acquired knowledge on one's own initiative. For the audience's knowledge, I would like the audience to know that you are a doctor of robotics and that you design, program and build robots for a living. You do this despite the fact that you're multiply disabled, where your disabilities are being legally blind, dysgraphic and suffer from a language processing problem that makes it difficult for you to process spoken language. The viewer should also note that you have successfully completed both university training as a computer systems engineer and as a roboticist, where you not only completed an extremely demanding course of study, you also managed to be awarded honors and scholarships for your studies. Another amazing feat that you accomplished is to earn both multiple patents and copyrights for your work in the field of computer systems engineering and later in the field of robotics. This is not to mention your work in the areas of fractal mathematics, cryptology and computer science. Also, you are a multiple award-winning research scientist. You have even designed, built and programmed many of the artificially intelligent and robotic devices that you have and still make extensive use of. You even have 5 years experience at teaching at both the graduate and professional levels. In high school you were mainstreamed and managed to graduate at the top 10% of your class despite your disabilities. According to what you stated on the first interview, you started working at the age of 12. You also stated that prior to high school you only had 3 years of schooling and that this was before the passage of the Greenberg Law in New York State. In terms of languages and reading, you stated that you taught yourself how to read, write and speak 2 languages. Also, in the first interview you stated that the New York State Board of Education claimed that you were mentally retarded. You previously stated that your parents believed that you were not mentally retarded and had you tested independently, whereby the test revealed that you had a 140 IQ and quite possibly had much greater potential of having a significantly higher IQ. In the second interview, you stated that your father was great at working with his hands and fixing all different things and machines, even though he did not have enough formal education. Your father worked as a longshoreman. Your mother, according to your own words, was fantastic at working with numbers and worked as a head teller. In the second interview you stated that you always liked to take things apart to see how they worked and as a result was often punished for doing that. Now I have several questions to ask you. Do you remember one of the first things that you took apart?
The first thing that I took apart was a black and white TV set that was operated via thermonic devices, also known as vacuum tubes.
What happened after you took the TV apart vacuum tube by vacuum tube?
After my parents caught me with the vacuum tubes on the floor and the back of the TV set open with screwdriver in hand, they punished me.
In the previous interview, you stated that both of your parents read, wrote and spoke 3 languages. What were these 3 languages?
My parents read, wrote, and spoke English, Italian, and Spanish fluently.
In terms of encouragement, who were the people that encouraged you the most?
The people that were in my life that encouraged me the most were my parents and my high school teachers, such as Mr. Harry Cranepool, Brother Philip Zeller, and Brother Thomas Casey.
What areas did these people encourage you in?
The areas that these people encouraged me in were the areas of the physical sciences, and mathematics.
Who was a role model and encouragement for you?
One of my role models was Dr. Ira Cochin, was a professor of mine in college during my undergraduate years.
Why was Dr. Ira Cochin your role model and encouragement for you?
Dr. Cochin was my role model because he was both deaf and blind, and in spite of those two disabilities managed to earn 5 doctoral degrees in engineering and teach.
How did you become interested in computers and electronics?
I became interested in computers and electronics through the high school radio and electronics club, at which point I learned how to repair shortwave receivers and transmitters, and also earned a technician class license while I was in high school.
Have you ever built electronic devices?
Yes, I have built crystal sets when I was in high school in the electronics and radio club. I also bought and built from kits home computers that I went and programmed myself.
How did you manage to build these devices and program them?
I managed to build these devices with the help of both friends and cousins, and I learned how to, in the case of the computers, program them by trial and error on my own.
What were these first electronic devices that you built used for, and how sophisticated were they?
The first electronic devices that I built were personal computers that came in kits. These devices had to be soldered together and connected to a TV set, which was used as a screen, and the programs were stored on a tape recorder-like device using digital tape cartridges that look like cassette tapes.
What was your first job that you truly enjoyed doing, and how old were you when you got this job?
The first job that I enjoyed doing was dealing with programming an IBM 360 mainframe. And at that time, I was 13 years old. And the thrill was to have the program run off of key punch cards.
What was the second job that you truly enjoyed doing, and how old were you when you got this job?
The second job that I enjoyed doing dealt with being a radio engineer for a company called WNCN Radio. At the time, it was owned by the GAF Mineral and Mining Company. And at that time, I was 20 years old.
Why did you enjoy these two different jobs?
I enjoyed both of these jobs because they allowed me to both make use of my skills, of my mental ability, plus the dexterity of my hands in building things.
Have you ever rebuilt computers before?
Yes, I have indeed rebuilt computers before. The first computer that I rebuilt was a surplus AT&T 3B2 700 that I bought and rebuilt with the installation of both memory that was new and at the time a hard drive that was new.
How sophisticated were these computers that you rebuilt?
The first computer that I rebuilt was a departmental computer that was of a super mini computer class.
Have you ever designed, built and programmed computers from scratch?
Yes, I have designed, built and programmed computers from scratch. I did this from the time that I was an undergraduate student at State University of New York through to the time that I was working on my doctoral degree.
How sophisticated were the computers that you designed, built and programmed from scratch?
The computers that I designed, built and programmed from scratch were as sophisticated as departmental Unix workstations.
How many computer programming languages do you know?
Presently, I know 14 different computer programming languages. These languages are Assembly, Basic, Fortran, COBOL, Pascal, ALGOL, C, C++, Java, Lisp, HTML, Mathematica, Modulo, and Prolog.
How did you learn to program in these languages?
I learned how to program in these languages by mainly reading programming manuals for these languages and trying by trial and error to play with code from these various languages. And that's how I learned them.
What were your contributions to the fields of computer science and mathematics?
The contributions that I made to the fields of computer science and mathematics are in the realm of computer animation using fractals, which I call fractamation. Also, a process to simulate human creativity using fractals I call fractolinguistics, because it incorporates fractal mathematics and linguistics. Additionally, I have also contributed to the fields of computer science by developing 2 languages. One is called SLAVE, which is an acronym for Symbolic Language for Automated Verification and Execution, and the other one is called MARCO, which is an acronym for Macro Augmented Reasoning with Compiled Objects. In terms of the area of mathematics, I have contributed in the realm of fractal mathematics by developing algorithms to represent everyday aspects of nature using fractals.
What were your contributions to the field of robotics?
My contributions to the field of robotics were in the areas of algorithms and methods for learning by example. That is a method of teaching a machine by giving it examples to automatically categorize and instantiate within its knowledge base. I have also developed artificially intelligent systems that were subsystems to robotics in systems dealing with the disabled. One of them was a reading machine, which I designed and built as part of my doctoral research. Another was a writing machine, which I also built as part of my doctoral research. The reading machine I call reading machine, and the writing machine I call the exploder. By the way, I also used the exploder to automatically write my doctoral dissertation for me.
How old were you when you made these contributions to these fields?
In terms of the contributions that I made to the field of computer science and mathematics, I was in my early to mid-20s. In terms of the contributions that I made to the field of robotics, I was in my late 20s.
How old are you now?
I am presently 49 years old.
I understand that you did your doctoral dissertation on the topic of machines that learn by example. What does the term machines that learn by example actually mean?
The term learn by example means to instruct a machine by providing examples for the machine to dynamically categorize based upon your interaction with the machine.
How old were you when you earned your doctorate in robotics?
I was 29 years old when I earned my doctorate in robotics.
How old were you when you earned your Bachelor's of Science degree in Computer Systems Engineering?
In terms of my Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Systems Engineering, I earned it when I was 25 years old.
I understand that in order to earn your bachelor's and doctoral degrees, you had to design, build and in some cases program your very own methods of using the machines that you regularly used. Tell me about some of these special methods that you used to make machines usable by yourself.
Some of the methods that I used to make the machines usable by myself was to incorporate auditory feedback in the form of Morse code and varying tonal oscillations. In the case of a light-sensitive audio pen that I used to read an oscilloscope that was an analog oscilloscope. Other examples of modifications that were used dealt with using a transparency maker to convert laser printout and dot matrix printout of graphical information into tactile form in an automated process. Another example is to program a computer to operate a built from kit speech synthesizer, where the programming was done from a Unix departmental machine through a dumb terminal.
How much did such adaptations cost you to implement?
These adaptations cost me in the range of $10 to $1,000 per modification.
How did you manage to pay for both the equipment that was modified and also the modifications themselves?
I primarily paid for the equipment and the modifications that were needed by using excess funds from grants and scholarships that I received during my time of studying at the undergraduate level.
During your adult years, did you have people that believed in your abilities and gave you a chance to prove that you can do the job?
During my adult years, I've had numerous professors and volunteers from both the volunteer group at the Grumman Aerospace Corporation and the Telephone Pioneers believe in my abilities to do whatever I said I can do, and thereby convince many of their network of friends and coworkers that I am definitely a viable, employable asset.
With all of the people that believed in what your abilities were despite your disabilities, how many years have you been gainfully employed?
To date, I have 36 years of work experience.
During your adult working period, what was the highest hourly wage that you earned and what company was it from?
During my adult working period, the highest hourly wage I have earned was $135 an hour, and that was working as an engineer for a company called Advanced Computer Consulting International.
I understand that you started and co-facilitate 2 LinkedIn groups. What are the names of these groups and what are the goals of these groups?
The names of the 2 LinkedIn groups that I have started are Radar-Based Medical Imaging and the Disability-Related Technologies group. The goal of the Radar-Based Medical Imaging group is to design an alternate form of diagnostic tool to the nuclear magnetic resonance imaging technology. On the other hand, the Disability-Related Technologies group, its goal is to accumulate and analyze the current research that is being done to develop both tactile and auditory feedback of complex information presented mainly in the form of graphics.
What do you see are the next major developments in the fields of radar-based medical imaging and disability-related technologies?
What I see as the next major developments in the fields of radar-based medical imaging and disability-related technologies are that in medical imaging, using radar-based medical imaging techniques, the very same diagnostic tool could not only diagnose problems that would have otherwise required an NMR, nuclear magnetic resonance imaging machine. They can also be used to direct and program nanobotic cellular surgery units to repair tissue damage or remove malignant tissue. In terms of the disability-related technologies group, I can see major developments in the areas of electrotactile dissemination of information using a touch-based screen technology, whereby the touch sense is synthetically transmitted through electrostimulation from a charged touch panel on a computer.
What area will you next conduct research in?
The area that I am currently contemplating conducting research in deals with the fabrication of a mass production assembly line type set up to mass produce artificially intelligent devices that can learn by example.
Has any other group done this kind of research before?
To my knowledge, no other group has done this kind of research before.
How will you fund the next area of research?
I will primarily fund this research through crowdfunding.
Thank you, Dr. Bitetto, for answering all of my questions. Also, thank you for your most valuable time.